Party with your host, Dustin Rybka.
Hello and welcome to Sex Party. I'm your host, Dustin Rybka. So glad you're here. How are you doing? Let me know on Instagram or Twitter how you guys are doing, how you're feeling. What are you doing? Share with me. Share your lives with me. Open up. On this episode, I talk with Stephanie Smith. Stephanie is the host of the Dirty Blondes podcast. Awesome fucking show. Awesome fucking guest. We talk about dating, what the hell's going on in the dating world. We get in depth with stuff like Bumble. We compare sort of Bumble scenarios, I guess. Stephanie also gives us some value from her anal sex series she did on her show, her BDSM series that she did on her show, a couple pointers there. And yeah, this was a blast. Stephanie's cool as fuck. So enjoy my conversation with Stephanie Smith.
This week's conversation.
Stephanie Smith from the Dirty Blondes podcast. How are you? Welcome to Sex Party.
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm awesome, actually.
Great.
That was a lie. Okay. So for the people who don't know you, and are seeing you, hearing you for the first time, could you intro yourself and, talk about who you are, but also about your show, about your podcast?
Sure. My name is Stephanie Smith. I live in South Florida, Boca Raton specifically. I have a podcast called Dirty Blondes Podcast, and it's about all things dating, sex, and relationships. I talk about my personal life as a cougar. I talk about exes. I have a BDSM series, an anal sex series, an STD series. So I do kind of educational things. So it's a little bit of everything. I give advice sometimes if people write in.
Yeah, and I feel like, your show, there's like the main episodes, right? Like you have a guest, you're talking about something specific. Whether it's BDSM or anal sex or like ass eating or something. There's a lot in the last couple episodes I listened to. There's a ton of ass eating. So there's like there's topics, but then also there's like these separate mini episodes that are sort of like updates on your life with dating, partners, all of that fun stuff.
Yeah, you know what? The anal sex series started because I feel like there's just a lot of misinformation and bad experiences when it comes to anal sex.
Yes.
So my best friend came on and we decided to do a little mini series and educate people on how to do everything properly. So those were really popular episodes, I think, because a lot of people really wanted to understand the correct way to do things. But yeah, there is a mix. So yeah, the butt stuff series is what we called it. That really blew up because a lot of people were interested in getting, more knowledge about it. So
Yeah, I mean, that's really cool because people, I feel like, especially now in this strange time that we're living in and dating in and all these things, fucking in, whatever, they don't, it's sort of like we're in this in-between sort of purgatory where you are not sure where to go to ask questions, but there are podcasts like yours, like mine, like all of these things where you could get information. But to do a series on that, I think is really intelligent. Do you think you could break it down like the whole series into like 2 or 3 or whatever little tips for people that are listening today that would be like could take that and actually use that in their anal sex butt stuff journey?
yes. Okay. So my main tip, this is for the heterosexual males. You cannot have anal sex as quickly as you would vaginal sex. Like buttholes don't lube themselves. So I feel like that's something that I used to run into a lot with anal sex when I was younger. And I think there's just a lot of misinformation out there about just how you can go from vaginal to anal sex. So anal sex takes time. It takes prep. It takes time. You have to be patient. Those are like the biggest and main factors of anal sex. It's a mind game, basically. You have to really be prepared.
True, very true. Yeah, I mean, And you would just assume that people would know that, right? And that would be your fault because it's like, why would people like, but I think, I mean, you or I would be like, hey, you can't just jam it in someone's ass. Like you have to like,
But, like, so many straight guys think that that's appropriate. Like, they think that that's normal. Like, they'll be like, "Wait, you use lube for anal?" And I'm like, "Jesus fucking Christ, like, please stay away from all women if that's what you think." Like
yeah, that's not great. That's
Yeah.
just like basic science, I would imagine.
Yeah, but it's you know what? I think just the sex education in America is not great. They just constantly
Mm,
tell you to abstain from sex, where I don't believe that. I think people are having sex very young. So, for me, when I started the podcast, I really liked being able to give advice and inform people on my experiences. At least as someone could say, "Oh, that's relatable," or "She went through that." I hate when I see people out there either spreading misinformation or giving bad information or advice to people. So, so I just that was like the main reason why I had started that series because I feel like a majority of women too, they have anal sex once and it's bad and then they never want to try it again, or they're the ones that tell all their girlfriends, "Oh my god, it's the worst experience ever and it sucks and don't do it." And then that's why I think a lot of straight guys get so upset that women don't want to try anal, but it's like, I mean, they don't do it right, so, there's for some women there's no point in trying.
yeah, and you're right. Like, your friend group, like word travels quickly, right? And it sort of
Yeah.
stays there. Well, Sally had a bad experience. I don't want to end up like that or whatever. Like whatever. I think that happens a lot, really. Is there anything else from the butt stuff series that you want to give to the listeners, to the viewers, that it's important?
I mean, those are the main things. It really just takes time. One of the biggest things is you, as heterosexual couples, like you shouldn't go from vaginal sex to anal sex and then back to vaginal sex. That's just a breeding ground for bacteria and just a lot of issues. I think there's also a misconception about douching or giving yourself an enema when it comes to anal sex. If you want to have good anal sex, that's the prep work that you have to put into it. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying do an enema with the actual like medicated stuff that comes in it, just with water. But that's something that a lot of people don't think of when it comes to sex or when it comes to anal sex.
Right. Right.
But that is something like if you're scared of pooping, like if you do an enema and douche your ass before you do it, then you should be good to go and you won't have that feeling.
Yeah, maybe like it'll give you more confidence or whatever, right? And
Yeah.
you'll actually be able to like try and enjoy it.
Yeah, because it can be very enjoyable for women, I mean, it's definitely, if it's done right, it can be enjoyable, and I think a lot of women, there's just that misconception that it's not going to be enjoyable, but it can be. It
Sure.
can be if it's done right.
Yeah, I mean, I have friends, and like obviously like girls that I've hooked up with that love it, right? And then you have
Yeah,
other people, like you said, who've never tried it and are deathly afraid of it.
right.
So prep wise, are they doing the enema water thing like the day before, the day of? Like, what's the timetable?
Usually you do it the day of. So normally as far as like eating, you probably shouldn't eat a ton the day of. Like cuz that's the thing with like heterosexual sex, it's a lot of times very spontaneous with vaginal sex, meaning
Yeah, totally.
anal sex can't I mean, it can be spontaneous, but it's going to be a mess. Like it's just not going to be the best experience that you can have. So if you want to have the best experience, I would suggest not eating a ton before and
Yeah.
then make sure you go to the bathroom, make sure you douche properly, and then after that, it's really just it's being patient, it's making sure that like whether you're using your fingers or toys to stretch yourself out and get prepped, it's using the right lubes and all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
So you might have to use some breathing techniques depending on the size of, what's going in. So
Yeah,
it's just
sure.
there's other components to it, but yeah, as far as that goes, it's definitely a day of kind of thing, eating as little as possible and just knowing that it's not going to be quick and, in and out. It's just not, it's not that
Right.
kind of act.
Yeah, and like something I would throw in there, right? From my side of things to anyone who's listening, right? Is don't just rip it out when you're done. You know what
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean? That's
Yeah.
something like definitely jot that down, people. Don't rip it out. Just don't just rip it out when you're done. Yeah. So that's my tip on top of your awesome fucking tips. So okay, so you did a BDSM series as well, correct?
Yes. Yeah. I'm in the
So
process. It's just one of those ongoing things. I don't do it
yeah,
every episode, but yeah, it's just kind of an
sure.
ongoing series.
Which is really cool because someone can listen to those separate from your personal or your main episodes, which is awesome.
Right. I like to mix it up because I don't want to bore my listeners, like, because not everyone's into BDSM, which I get, and not
Right.
everyone also is into my personal dating life. And, so I try to mix up every week if I can. So.
Yeah. So what are some tips from that you've learned so far? You that would be great for people, like just one or two for the BDSM for the beginners out there.
For the beginners, I mean, it's really just finding someone who's kind of on your level and into the same stuff. There's so many levels of BDSM. Like, there's like really extreme stuff, like when you get into sadomasochism and all of that. And then there's the more kind of like vanilla side of like, oh, I just like to be spanked or like choked a little and like, starting to kind of flirt with that kind of stuff. So, again, that's something that you do have to experiment with. And I think it's finding the right person that you can trust.
Yeah.
Trust has a lot to do with BDSM. Trust and communication are like the biggest things because if you don't trust who you're with, and you aren't good at communicating what you want or what feels good or bad or whatever, then that's going to be a very big problem and you're probably not going to have a great experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's that that sort of feeling of safety, right? Like
Yes.
you'll get fucking degenerate as fuck with someone who makes you feel safe. I feel that's
Mhm.
usually how it goes. And that's not an easy thing. I think arguably that's probably the hardest piece of that is to find someone that you feel that you can be safe with and be fucking crazy with or whatever. Um, I'm wondering if you could comment on just from like a shame perspective, like a lot of people, I feel like, I talk to a lot of people, outside of the show or people I know, a lot of women who are like sort of nervous or shameful or feel bad about having urges with BDSM or anal or gangbangs or DPs or whatever their thing that they're into.
Mhm.
Someone with your experience, who obviously knows a lot of this stuff and knows a lot about shame and has been through it. What advice would you give to somebody?
You know what? I think with, the feeling of shame, I think that's, that's a personal thing that someone has to kind of just like work through and figure out maybe why they feel shamed. If it's like society, if it's maybe religious backgrounds or family or friends or whatever. Um, if your partner is making you feel shameful about something, then maybe that partner's not the right person for you. But all the other components, I don't think that those people like they don't need to know about your sex life. Like for me, this is what I signed up for. So my entire sex life is out there.
Yeah.
So so I personally don't feel shame about anything. It's my choice and
Yeah.
I like what I like. So yeah, I mean, if you're with a partner who's making you feel shamed against, certain things, then, it's your choice whether you want to stay with that person or not. But, that's a completely different conversation than just like societal shame. But
Right.
honestly, I always say on the podcast, like, sex is supposed to be fun and it's supposed to feel good for everybody. So, like, if you're into something and you want to try it out, give it a shot. Like, who the fuck cares? Like,
Right.
it's really not like, I don't know. There's just like all these like stigmas. I mean, even though everything is very sexually charged in society now, and everyone's talking about sex more, and advertising and TV is very sexual and all of that kind of stuff. And you would think that people wouldn't feel shame about things. And, it's definitely, I mean, there's less shame now than there was, even 10 years ago. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just one of those people where I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this or try this. And like, look, if something doesn't work out, it doesn't mean you have to commit to that. Like with BDSM, like there's so many levels and layers to what you can experience in the BDSM world. So, there might be something that you try and you're like, all right, you know what? That's not for me, but I want to do
Right.
this aspect of it or that aspect. So I think it's just trial and error. And I think the more you kind of get comfortable with trying new things and, kind of putting yourself out there, the less shameful it is. There's plenty of, websites that you can go on of like, kind of chat groups and, even Reddit and, message boards and things like that where, then you see these like, firsthand experiences and even just podcasts. There's so many, new sex and dating podcasts out there. So that's why I like to share my personal experiences. Like I don't sit there and say that I'm an expert.
Right.
I just speak from my personal experience. Like, for example, I have never been to a sex club, but it is on my bucket list to do. I had an opportunity at one point where I was exploring that with someone, but it didn't work out. We stopped dating, so I just never, moved forward. But with him specifically, I was entertaining that, but I wouldn't do that with a lot of guys because I know they wouldn't be comfortable doing that. So it's like you have to find the right person as well to explore certain things with.
Yeah, and so that sort of like perfectly leads us to this fucking massacre. But like, what the fuck is wrong with dating right now? Like, I feel like it's more of a mess than it was pre-pandemic. I know we're not supposed to say like it's not over yet or whatever,
Yeah.
but pre
I mean, I live in
pre-pandemic,
Florida. It's over.
it's been
It's
it never came to Florida.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It was like 6 months and it was over.
Miami, baby.
Yeah.
So yeah, but what the fuck is happening, right? I know you have a plethora of things you can pull from, and your podcast is based on your part of it on your personal experience. So I really want to get into that because I feel like we're in a fucking crazy place, and there's a lot of people that they're just like lonely or horny or whatever, right? But
Yeah.
they don't even know they wouldn't even dream of matching with someone or even downloading Bumble, or maybe somebody is, and it's such a strange spot that we're in.
It is. I think part of the reason why dating is such a mess now is because a lot of people are going on these apps and you just see how many options you have. Like, not that I'm a 10, but my Bumble, I like because I pay for Bumble, so I can see everyone that's liked me already or swiped right on me. I
Yeah.
have 1,600 people that have
Come
already
on.
swiped right. Yeah, no, I'm not even joking. And that's not including Hinge. That's not including people who have slid into my DMs. Like, and that's just active people right now. So it's like I have 60, I mean, not that I would match with all of them, but I have 1,600 people at my disposal right now that I could shoot a DM to and be like, hey, what's up? So when you start to see how many people are available and who's out there, especially with so many people traveling and a lot of people during the pandemic, they up and moved. Like we saw it down here a lot in Florida. Everyone was like, oh, well, like the mask mandate's not happening. I can work from home. So I'm going to rent a long-term Airbnb or, rent a house or, whatever the case is. And you had so many people down here just, temporarily staying. And there was a couple guys that I talked to and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to this state next for, 3 months. And they were hopping around from state to state. So I think there's, you just start to see what's out there and people they don't want to miss out on something, like
Hmm.
FOMO is real in every
Yeah.
aspect of life. So I think a lot of people sit there and they say, wow, I really like this person. They'll start to get to know someone and they'll say, I really like this person. And then all of a sudden it starts to get too real, too fast. And then they're like pumping the brakes and then they either break it off and want to keep their options open and not commit to the person, or you have the flip side where everyone's like rushing in to get in, to label something, which that's a whole other, I see the two extremes down here. I feel like you
Yeah.
have the people that are rushing into, a relationship just to have the label and, the social media, like, oh, I can post this person now, whatever. And then you have the other aspect of like, oh yeah, I want to like date forever, but like never have a label.
Right. Well, first of all, 1,600, good for you.
Thank you.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And I'm not surprised. Because that's what I was driving at. That what you just totally fucking nailed it. But you gave us a real world example from your Bumble account. There's 1,600 motherfuckers that are waiting on the other side of the fence, like, hey, pick me or whatever.
Right. And I mean, realistically, too, like I said, I mean, these aren't necessarily all guys that I would match with. And, and some of them are probably out of state now. Like, I don't go that far back. I just like kind of see the more recent ones. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like when you start to see that many options. I mean, I was in Texas a couple weeks ago with a friend, and I had received a message on Bumble from someone in Florida. So I had opened it. So obviously it updated my location from I was only there for 4 days or 3 days maybe, and I was up to almost like 2,000 people because it was just like I was a new person in the pool of Dallas.
Fresh
And
meat.
so I was like, "Oh my god," like I was like looking at the numbers, I was like, "This is crazy." But yeah, when you start to see that kind of, because I think everyone nowadays is just looking for attention and validation. I
Hmm.
think that a lot of people are damaged and, I think more people need to be in therapy. I'm very pro therapy. I'm in
Yeah.
therapy. I started my therapy journey like 2 years ago. And I encourage everyone, if you're not in therapy, you should start because it's like you don't have to start when you're, down in the dumps, depressed and have this catastrophic thing. Like you can, do it to maintain your happiness or, just work through things at your own pace. It doesn't have to be this, like movie kind of like, oh, I have to lay on the couch with my therapist. Like it's not like that,
Right. Yeah.
um, but yeah, I think a lot of people, I think there's kind of multiple sides to it. Some people don't like the label because they want to be able to kind of cheat on someone, like they don't, if they feel like if they have the label, then they can't still date around. So then if they do date around, then it's like, oh, well, we weren't in a relationship. So like, why are you upset kind of thing? And then I think some people are just on the apps because they just like the validation of talking to someone and getting that notification, whether it's on Instagram or Snapchat or, whatever. I think that has a lot to do with it. I'm very transparent about my history with guys. I was a disaster in my 20s. And I'm a Libra, so we are always like falling in love with people. That's just like a very Libra thing. So my friends would always laugh because every time I would meet a new guy, I'm like, oh my God, I'm in love with this guy. Like he's perfect. We're a match, whatever. And now that I'm, in a healthier place with dating and, my mental health and all of that stuff, I look back at some of these guys that I would either obsess over or cry over or whatever the case was. And I'm like, thank God it didn't work out because I really just wanted the validation and attention because they were hot and I liked the attention that they were giving me, but I didn't really like them. Like we had like bare minimum, very surface level bullshit in common. It wasn't, this deep, you know, shit that's like, "Oh, they're my soulmate." They
Right.
absolutely were not.
Yeah. Of course. Well, I mean, the interesting thing is I feel like the last, I don't know, 10, 15. I guess you can make a case for like 20 whenever Facebook started and then Instagram, right? Like
Mhm.
the engagement was way higher in the beginning. So you're getting likes on your pictures, you're getting all of this attention, the little fucking crack dopamine hits, right?
Yeah.
And it felt great because you're like, cool. Someone thinks someone would probably blow me at a party or what, whatever your thought was, or someone would probably take me on a date or like whatever your thing was, you were getting like indications that you were correct. So it was like, reinforcing your belief about yourself, making yourself feel good.
Yeah.
And then, Mark Zuckerfuck just, decided to turn the dial down, right? So now
Yeah.
we're in a space where nothing has really changed. Everyone's got a little older, but everybody looks better than they did 10 years ago. I saw the 10-year challenge, right? So we
Yep.
all look fucking phenomenal, but yet no one's liking anything. No one's whatever because they're not seeing it. But we think we suck. So then we turn to dating apps and it's like, give me, I need it, or whatever, or whatever.
Yeah.
And depending on your experience, that could be kind of like, kind of fucking crushing a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah, dating is tough. I mean, because it's definitely, I think a lot of people also too, I've talked about this on the podcast, like, I love my ladies, but I do call them out and hold them accountable because I'm very big on being honest in your profile as far as your pictures go. I hear it from guys all the time. Now, I'm not saying that, look, I love an Instagram filter. I love, full faces of makeup and all that shit. But the amount of guys that I meet on a weekly or monthly basis, and they're like, I cannot believe that you look exactly like your pictures. Because I put pictures on my dating profile that, this is me with a full face of makeup on. So I'm not, I'm not changing my face completely. Like I look pretty much the same with my makeup off. And I give credit to the girls who are really good at makeup and can completely transform their faces. Like I can't do that. So like kudos to you because that's like Picasso level shit. But like
Right.
that doesn't need to also be every single picture on your dating profile. I think filters have no place on a dating profile. I think that pictures that are older than 6 months to a year have no business being on a dating profile. So that's a lot of issues I see from the male perspective of, them being so upset that they meet a woman that is just it's not the same person, whether they've gained weight or lost weight or they just, whatever the case is, they just don't look themselves.
Right.
And I just and look, I'm not saying guys don't use filters. They just use them way less. But I've definitely run into guys where they've posted pictures from like 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I'm like, all right, this is definitely like, you don't look like this. So I think just being like as honest and upfront about like, one, what you're looking for, and two, just like how you look. Like, I think that's really important because people will be like, well, why did they ghost me? Why didn't they like contact me again or whatever? And I'm like, that's probably the reason why. Like, I've looked at some people's profiles and I'm like, yo, you need to fucking like revamp this shit because like
Yeah.
this is not who you look like, So
Okay. Well, if you have 1,600 dudes waiting in line to buy you cotton candy, right, at the amusement park, like everyone's like, if that's what someone's up against, how does a guy even fucking, you know what I'm saying? Like, first of all, that's
girls have more options than guys. That's just always how it
completely,
is. Like
yeah,
if I'm
for
walking
sure.
down the road and there's 12 guys and I say just out loud, I want to have sex with you. Almost all of them are going to be like, okay, you know what I
Right.
mean? Now, if the roles were reversed and it was a man walking down the street with 12 women and he said, I want to have sex with you, maybe one or two would be like, okay, it's different. And it's like, girls know that. And it's like, I know that I have options, and it's
Yeah.
not, and like I said, I don't think I'm a 10. I don't think I'm anything special, but I know, what I can pull. So I can be selective where some people who, are lower on the looks scale, it's unfortunate that, it's looks are a big part of dating apps, but you better have a fucking personality. You know what I mean? Like there's
Right.
definitely guys where like they're not 10s and they're not even necessarily my type, but their profile made me crack up. Like their pictures were a really, really good representation of their personality or what they like to do and they were good at conversation. Like when we were messaging back and forth, I was like, oh, awesome, like this is definitely someone I want to like grab drinks with or whatever.
Sure.
So I think that's where it's like if you don't have the looks part of it, you have to make up for it in the conversation and the bio and the humor and all that kind of stuff because not everyone's out of your league, but it's like if you just go into it with a negative attitude and, don't even fucking try, like, because there's plenty of guys that I've matched with that are like 10s, like they're hot guys. And I'm like, you are so fucking boring, like done, like, so I think that plays a role in it too, but.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to state your case, right? Because
Yeah.
women are always going to have more options than men. It's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
Get over it. I fucking hate all that. Like who people like try to rally again. Like just shut the fuck
It
up.
just is what it is, but it's like at
Yeah.
the same time though, it's like, there's a lot of guys that I've run into that kind of play like the sob story of like, oh, like, because they just lie or they'll skirt around the truth. And like I'll say to guys, like, again, because like I said, I think earlier in the episode, I have fallen into kind of like the cougar category of dating. So I date a lot of guys in college and a lot of them just kind of like, will just talk to me about just different stuff just to run things by me. And I'm like, you guys have to stop like talking to these girls like you want to be in a relationship with them. I'm like, if you want to just fuck them, then like be upfront about it. Like you have to, but there's like a fine line too. It's like you have to play the game because like I have guys that will message me and right out the gate, it'll be like, what are you looking for? And that is such a turnoff. I cannot stand that. Like, we're on a dating app. Like, it's assumed that at some point we're going to fuck if we get to that point. You know what I mean? Like, if you just are like wanting sex immediately, then go find like a sex worker and just support their life. Like, like don't be on a dating app trying to like actually like talk to people and waste their time. But yeah, I say to them, I'm like, you can still have a normal conversation with a girl on a dating app and be a civil human and still get laid and have a casual encounter, like just because you're asking them how their day is and like what they do for work and whatever, very surface level stuff doesn't mean that you're going to marry them, like I've had to say that to guys all the time. They're like, well, you said in your, profile at one point you were looking for a relationship. And I was like, yeah, not with you. Like, doesn't mean with you, like in general, yes, like that's a goal, but like, that doesn't mean like, don't, like get off your little pedestal there.
Yeah, so this is very, very interesting that we've come to a nexus point, I believe, because in my experience on the dating apps, which is not a lot, I'm sort of just like I'm a fucking mess, whatever. So, but
we're all a mess. It's okay.
Yeah, thank you for that. When I match with someone, my experience on dating apps lately, we'll say, I don't know, last like year or so, has not been a lot. I did do the paid version of Bumble for a while. I don't know, it was okay, whatever. But I get a couple of matches that I'm interested in here and there, and I will match with them. And on Bumble, the woman has to message first, which is great. Yep. Love that. So then they message. And it's exactly what you said. And it's, what are you looking for? Except it's the reverse, right? They're like, and when I feel like, geez, like that's how I feel right away. I'm like, and I'm just honest because that's who I am. If you listen to the show, if you watch the show, blessing and a curse, I'm just straight, right? Straight as an arrow. Let's try to tell you how it is. And I'll say, don't really know. And they're like, unmatch every single time.
See, okay, so here's the thing. So it's like, so from a woman's perspective, I feel like from a man's perspective, when a man is asking, what are you looking for? To me, in my experience, they're looking just for something casual. They don't want the relationship. Like, they don't want you to say that. They just want you to say, I want to go with the flow. I don't know, like be very vague. Whereas with women, if I'm asking a guy, because I was in that position when I was in my 20s, I would say, well, like, what are you looking for? Because at that point in my life, I was looking for a relationship. So I would say, like, what are you looking for? And if a guy was vague about it, then I would be like, okay, well, like, I don't want to waste my time or their time. But realistically, I think that question is such a loaded and bullshit question because there really is no like right answer. Like, just because like I match with someone and we're on the same page about what we're looking for, it doesn't mean that that's going to work for us. You know what I mean? Like there's plenty of guys, some of my best guy friends I've met from Bumble, like we were just like, all right, cool. Like, we hooked up and we were, had great conversation, whatever the case was. And then we were just like, you know what? Like, we're not really compatible. Like my friend Byron, he's on, I think episode like 16 of my podcast. And he's someone we hooked up like handful of times, but our personalities are so different. Like he's a fly by the seat of his pants, loves to travel, is always going somewhere. I'm a planner. I like to have things like planned out. I'm not like that. And I think we just kind of realized we're like, all right, well, like we're cool, like friends. Like I'll go to the strip club with him. Like, you know what I mean? Like we're like each other's like wing person kind of.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's someone I met on Bumble. But like at that time, we were both looking for the same thing and it didn't work out, So it was like no harm, no foul. So I think that question, I think when people ask it, it's bullshit because like, yeah, like I said a little bit ago, just because I'm looking for something doesn't mean I'm looking for it with that person,
Yeah, I love that.
Like people put so much weight on it. It's like, fuck off. Just like live in the moment for a second. Like get to know each other.
Yeah, and that's why this is like a nexus point because it's the same question reversed, right? But you and I both agree, and I love that we're both on the exact same page there. And on one hand, listen, I get how fucking cutthroat, like you know, these women are that are connecting with me on Bumble, I like kind of applaud you for really knowing what you want and then chucking me off to the like kind of it's awesome. Good for you. That's amazing. But it's also like it is kind of like closed-minded and kind of like it's annoying, right? It's like Jesus Christ. Why do you have to start with that? And so
Right.
yeah, we were totally on the same page there, which is very,
Yeah, because
very
I've
cool.
definitely done that. I've done that with guys where like, and I've had guys too that have just been upfront with me. Like, if the conversation, this is the best way I feel like the conversations go in my experience when we're having a conversation and we get to a point where it's like either a lot of time is spent talking within the first day or 2 days, whatever. And then, obviously you see if you're vibing or not, in the conversation. And then I've had many guys sit there and say, okay, look, just as a heads up, this is what I'm looking for. And I don't want to waste your time. Like, if you're not into it, I totally understand and respect your decision, but I just want to be upfront because I don't want to waste your time. That's so much better than saying, what are you looking for? Because it's not even meant to be like attacking, but it's like when you put my therapist always says, when you say to someone, oh, why are you doing this or why are they doing that? It's like there's more anger kind of charge to it. So if
Yeah.
you put it back on yourself and say, like, what this is what I want. And if that doesn't fit what you want, that's okay. So I've done that before in the past where I'm just like, hey, this is where I'm at. Like, especially with like, I work full time, I have this podcast, my schedule is like, I know right now I don't have the time to devote to like one person to just like nurture a relationship that I normally would.
Yeah.
So I'm upfront with guys. I'm like, look, I have a sex podcast. I'm on 2 dating apps. I'm talking to a lot of people. Like, it just is what it is. So if you're insecure and that's not something that like vibes with what you want, then that's okay. And there's guys that are like, yeah, no, I can't do this. Like, like you're a hoe. I don't want my life out there, and I get it.
Sure.
But it's the same token. So I think, yeah, if you're going to try to figure out what someone's looking for, be like, this is what I'm looking for. Does that work with you? And
Right,
then,
and don't shame it either way, right? Like, don't
right.
shame the person for wanting a relationship right off the rip or whatever. And people who want a relationship shouldn't shame people for not. It's like again, we're at that shame thing. It's like Jesus, fuck, he just made someone feel like shit and whatever. Like, I'm cool with it. I think it's actually kind of funny when
Yeah.
because it happens almost every single time. And I don't know if it's just where I'm at or like the area where it's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. What's dating
Um,
like in Chicago? Like, what's like,
I mean, Chicago's amazing, right? It's got incredible people. The women are awesome here. People are really friendly. It's not like I don't want to talk shit about LA, but like I used to live in LA, and LA, like people, everyone's just like fuck you. You know what I mean? But like
yeah.
whatever. There's good people everywhere. It's just so there's that. The dating apps are like kind of a mess. And
Yeah.
again, it might just be me because I'm a fucking disaster. But also like when I go out, if I just go stand at a bar,
Hmm.
um, I usually like someone will come up to me or I'll be next to someone, we'll start a conversation, we'll exchange numbers, like it just sort of happens. So
Yeah.
and that's been my life has just been that way. I don't know. I just like to be around parties and people and women and all this shit. So like that happens a lot in Chicago, a lot. But then the dating apps for me, maybe I just suck at them, but it seems very like for the most part, like I want this. If you can't offer it, get out of here. Which it was not like that like a couple of years ago.
Yeah. You know what? I feel like there's kind of been an evolution of it because like Tinder was like the first one that came out. Then Tinder became like the hoe app. Then Bumble was the more relationship app. Then now that's still a hoe app because everyone's like either banned from Tinder or is just like there's so many bots and fake accounts that they don't want to
Right.
use it. So now Hinge is like the relationship app. But like even Hinge, like there's guys that I've talked to and they're literally in hookup mode of like, I only want to fuck you. So it's like you're gonna run across that on every app. But I guess my best advice is like I used to take dating apps very seriously. I went in with my whole heart. I'm the bitch that's like once wanted the fairy tale and like wears my heart on my sleeve and like that was very me in my 20s. So I went in thinking of like, okay, I'm taking this seriously. So everyone that I'm matching with or seeking out is going to be taking this as seriously as me. And like there's guys that I've run into on there that are just trolls. Like they just want to piss women off and just like say nasty shit just because they're bored and that's what they want to do, you know? So everyone has a different motive on the apps, you know? I mean, I've even seen guys that are like photographers. Like I live in South Florida, like everyone, you know, is content creating and doing shit
Sure.
down here.
Yeah.
So it's like I've seen guys on the apps like just for like to be like, "Hey, I'm looking for models that are like unpaid models. I just need your time like to shoot different things or whatever." So I mean, everyone's using it for something different. So I think that's where people sometimes like they get this tunnel vision of like, this is what I'm looking for and this is only what I can be looking for. But I don't know. I mean, once I kind of let loose a little bit more and just was like, all right, let's just see how these conversations go and see what happens. I had a lot more fun with it because it was less pressure, it was less stress. I was able to just to kind of like take the weight off of my shoulders and just be like, all right, let's see what happens. And I've met a lot of great people that like I still hang out with or keep in touch with, or they'll hit me up and be like, "Hey, I'm having like relationship problems. Like, can you give me your perspective?" Like, whatever. So it's like I've met a lot of great people, but I like meeting people and chatting with people. So maybe it's not the same for everyone.
Yeah, I think they just see like my devil horns like coming out like from, and they're like, "Get the fuck away from me." That's how it feels. So it's like whatever. I get it. I deserve it. Sure. Okay, so I want to dive into your dating life a little bit if we
Okay.
can. Um, so you identify as a cougar, or you call yourself a cougar, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Can we do that at 34? I mean, I feel like that's so early.
This started in my 20s, my late 20s. So
Why?
okay, so here's the thing. I have a lot of guys that reach out to me and will call me even a MILF. And I'm like, I'm not you know, I don't have kids, so I can't really be a MILF, you know.
Right.
And so now there's like on Urban Dictionary, MILF is also there's like a secondary term instead of mother I'd like to fuck, it's mature I'd like to fuck. So I think the younger generations, like, because MILF for us, you know, I think it's more like the Stifler's mom of like the
Yeah, it's like
teens fucking
50
the mom
something,
in the
60 something.
30s, 40s, 50s, and you know, whatever. So and then with a cougar, to me, I kind of always struggle with it. I always just kind of like lumped them in the same category, but like obviously a MILF was mom, you know, so that was like
Yeah.
that was my thought process. But now with these younger guys, like so many of them are like, no, you're still a MILF, and I'm like, but like I don't have kids, so like, am I? So yeah, so I kind of have fallen into the cougar category. Like I said, I'm 34. I mean, the guy that I'm seeing right now is 21. I've hooked up with I hooked up with an 18-year-old. Accidentally, I didn't know he was 18, but like he was
Sure.
graduating high school the next day. Like,
What?
yeah. Oh yeah, I found
No.
that out. I almost had a heart attack. I was like,
No.
what the
Tell us
fuck?
that story. Tell us that story.
So we had matched on Hinge and I don't know if his age just like wasn't on there or if it was wrong, but he had his college in there. So I'm like, oh, he's in college. So I'm like, whatever. So we had hooked up once. He came over again. I think it was like a week later or something. And he was like, I can't really stay as long as I did the last time. And I was like, okay, no problem. Like I have work the next day, you know, like whatever. And he was like, yeah, I'm graduating high school tomorrow. And I was like, pardon? So I was like, are you 18? And he was like, yes, I'm 18. He was like,
Oh
but I'm
my
graduating
God.
high school tomorrow. And I was like, I thought you were in college. And he's like, no, I'm starting college in August. And I was like, okay. So that was the youngest that I've been with, 18. So when I was 30, I think 3 was when we had hooked up. So, um,
Wow. Damn.
but yeah, I mean, the town that I live in, there's 2 colleges in town. And then there's like a lot that are nearby. So there's a ton of college kids just like in the area. And yeah, I originally like when I started dating, so my first boyfriend was 20 years older than me. I was 19 and he was 39 when we met. And that was on and off for like 10 years. We were long distance. It was a disaster of a relationship because he had mental health issues. He was bipolar. He was an addict. He had PTSD because he was a Marine. So there was just a lot of, you know, layers and shit to that.
Yeah.
And then I started dating more my age after I kind of got over him. And then as I hit my late 20s, that's when like some of the younger guys, not like only a few years younger than me, but they would still even kind of call me a MILF or a cougar, even though I was like maybe like 3 years older than them or 4 years older. And then, yeah, then I just started to embrace it as I got into my 30s. I think part of the reason why too is I used to be 400 pounds. I was very overweight all of my 20s, and I had bariatric surgery. Well, it's like 3 years ago, I guess now, or 4 years
Oh,
ago.
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so I in my 20s, I didn't like how I looked, so I felt like I missed out on my 20s, so I think part of the
Yeah.
reason now why I'm going for these younger guys is because I'm not in a place where I feel like I can actually nurture a healthy relationship, and then on top of it, I'm like, "All right, I'm on the same page as them with, like, partying and drinking, and, like, my schedule's kinda weird," and, I obviously feel a lot better about my looks. So, the fact that these, like, young, hot college guys are like, "Hey, what's up?" I'm like, yeah, hello." It's, like, just additional validation for me, so that's why I'm kind of just, like, riding that wave.
No, that's
So,
so fucking cool. That's so like that is it fits. The puzzle piece fits, right? Like all you checked all the boxes for your situation like
yeah.
better than anybody could because there probably is a little like I missed out and I'm going to get mine, right? I
Yeah,
fucking
I
totally get
definitely
that
because my
shit.
whole 20s, I was worried about my ex lived in a different state, and so I was just constantly dealing with his bullshit of, like, being in and out of hospitals or suicide attempts or, like, all this stuff, so I grew up
Yeah.
I was dealing with a very adult level shit when I was in college, and, whatever, everyone deals with things at different points in their lives, but, yeah, I that was something that, like, I grew up very fast, and I kind of like having these, like, young college guys that are just carefree and just, like, wanna hang out or, like, this one guy that I'm kind of seeing right now, like, he comes over for, like, 3 days at a time, and he'll just, like, camp out at my house and just, like, we play house, and then he goes, like, I haven't talked to him in a week, but then he'll resurface again, so it's just, like it's kinda nice. It's, like, I
Yeah.
don't know, there's there's no pressure really, so
Yeah, I listened to those episodes.
Oh,
Yeah, very cool. I'm invested. I wanna know like where that goes. So can you talk a little bit about what a snapshot of your dating life looks like? What is like a typical day or week or situation? Are you going on multiple dates? Are you just hooking up with multiple people? Is there one or two?
It varies week to week. Like, I'm kind of in, like, a dry spell right now. Like, this guy
Mm,
that, the 21-year-old that I just kind of alluded to, he's been kind of, like, the main person that I've been seeing, but, I mean, I'm trying to think the last time I saw him. It's been, like, over a week since I've seen him or really even talked or it's been a week since we've talked and, like, over a week since I've seen him.
right.
But we're both kind of, like, going with the flow. We both know that we're seeing like, other people. We're both actively on Bumble. There's some weeks where I have, like, 2, 3, 4 dates in a week, and then other weeks that I have nothing.
Right.
Um, so, it just depends on the person. I mean, there's definitely guys that I match with, and I'm just like, "Yeah, I just wanna fuck them," and then I just, like, if they're civil people and, like, the conversation's decent, because like, I don't like to reward bad behavior. That's, like, one of my things. So it's like,
Sure.
even if I think a guy's hot and I'm like, "Yeah, I'd fuck them," if they come in hot in the messages and, like, the messages are cringy or rude or whatever, then I'm like, "Nope, you're not gonna get fucked now." So, it all depends on, like, the delivery and kind of how it goes, but, yeah, there's definitely guys that I'm like, "Alright, let's just, like, do this." And then other guys, depending on how the conversation goes, I'm like, "Oh, I'd date them and, like, actually get to know them." But honestly, I mean, with the way that my life is and the guys that I date, because again, they're young, they're in college, they're, living their 20s and whatever. I think a lot of them, they see me as this like hot cougar that they like want to, like either spend time with or just fuck whatever. But a lot of them do get intimidated by the podcast. So I think the podcast is like, it's good and bad. It weeds out a lot of guys because like I can't date an insecure guy. So that's just it weeds out the
Yeah.
insecure guys, which is great. But at the
Right.
same time, it's like I feel like a lot of guys don't trust me. So which whatever. I mean, it's, teach their own. I've never done anything to make them not trust me, so that's like their own shit. But yeah, it's a slippery slope sometimes.
Yeah, because they just assume you're gonna air out all your or their fucking fetishes and kinks and shit on your podcast.
Yeah, and like some of them, well, and it's funny because some of them I put it in my dating profile, so there's no surprises. So I've had guys that are like, I want to be a guest. I've had guys that are like, I want you to talk about me because like they want to be able to like send it to their friends and be like, oh, look what she said. And I'm like, yeah, let's like you say that after we have sex because it's like I've had a lot of guys that are like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like blow your mind. And I'm like, you did not do anything. You just gave me a
Right.
headache. Get the fuck out of my house.
Right. Right.
But yeah, so it definitely it's good and bad with the podcast as far as that goes. But yeah, I think a lot of guys too, like I always say, I don't name names on the podcast unless it's someone that knows that they're being named, like my
Hmm.
friends and stuff like that. Like I'll call them by their first name. But guys that I'm dating, I'll either make up a code name for them or be like, this is like the guy du jour of like who I'm dating. Cause
Sure.
no one ever really sticks around long enough or it just kind of fizzles out because that's just how dating is. It's like I feel like the most I've ever dated someone recently is like 2 months and then usually at the 2 month mark it's like it's out. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's a quick cycle.
yeah, it is.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that's fucking fantastic. It should be a quick cycle, you got stuff to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you give a story? It doesn't have to be like a horror story. It can be, or it could be like a fun, whatever. Just something that's the most like I don't know, the wilder the better. Give us a dating story, something that happened to you recently.
Um Recently. Oh
Mm-hmm.
gosh.
Semi recently. It doesn't have to be yesterday, but
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I haven't even been on a date really in like I'm trying to think. Well, I've talked about this on a previous episode, but I've just had guys coming out of the woodwork lately. Like I'm very big on like I used to, when I was younger and insecure and like, didn't have any like self love and all that kind of stuff. I definitely was the type of girl that like would let guys get away with murder and I would just allow them to come back and just walk all over me and treat me like shit. And now I'm very much the opposite. I feel like I always had it in me, but I just had such a bad relationship with guys and I was looking for such validation and attention from them that I was just allowing stuff to happen, even though deep down I knew it wasn't okay.
Hmm.
So recently I've just had a lot of guys that like, I thought things were going great. And then they were just like, nope, I'm seeing someone else. And it like, and I'm like, all right, cool. Like best of luck to you. Like I'm seeing other people too. Like, and now they're all coming back through the woodworks. Like I had this one guy, he just literally texts me right now. He's not even saved in my phone anymore, but I know his area code. But yeah, he had a crazy ex, like his ex, had deleted me off of his Instagram and he didn't know and like I don't know some bullshit story and I'm just
One of
like and I said
those.
yeah and I was like honestly I'm like if we didn't work out the first time like I don't know why you're trying to to work out the second. I had another guy too that he wanted a open relationship that was like that's something that he likes is an open relationship and I've never been in an open relationship. I would entertain it with a certain person if I really trusted them. With him, the way that he just, through our discussions, I was like, all right, I can trust this guy to like, potentially entertain that. We were talking about going to sex clubs together, and just like he was definitely into more the cuckolding part of it, not being in person, but he was just like, I like that you're a hoe and like I want you to like have fun and like I want to
Yeah.
know all about it. And I was like, all right, cool. I've actually had two guys like that. That were like very into like I don't really wanna sleep with other people, like, I will if I have the opportunity, but, like, I want you to go out there and, like, fuck other people and be like, "My
Right.
boyfriend wants me to film this," and, whatever. So, like, I got into that for a little bit where, like, I was, like, telling some of these guys, I'm like, "Hey, like, I do have a boyfriend," even though we weren't really, like, in a
Sure.
relationship but they didn't know the details. So I'd be like, "Hey, like I have a boyfriend. He like is okay with me fucking you, but like he wants like video like of it happening." And like some guys were just kind of like, like, all right. Like they were like, cause it's like a weird request. Obviously, it's not a very common thing.
Yeah.
And like, cause I think they were more afraid of like, oh, like, does he live here? Like, is he gonna come over? And I'm like, no, no, no. It's like not like that. I just like need to send him a video.
Right.
So that's probably, I guess, maybe like the craziest, most recent stuff is like entertaining the open relationship, taking, these videos with these guys where like they knew about it and entertaining sex clubs and that kind of thing. So
Yeah, because it sounds hot, right? It sounds like pornographic, like
Yeah.
Pornhub, right? Right, where you're like, oh shit, okay, whatever. But then on the other side, it's like, man, wait a minute, my logical brain stepping in and has a something to say, and it's like this kind of sounds like the beginning of a Saw movie, so you
Yeah.
never really know.
Yeah, well, I think it's funny too because both guys that had asked me to do this, like to have like the kind of open relationship situation and wanted me to sleep around and they liked that I was slutty and all this stuff. They were the ones who ended it with me and we didn't even really get that far, which was funny. Like we had talked a lot, but like we didn't really see each other in person that much. It was like, just conflicting schedules and things like that.
Hmm.
And yeah, they both ended up seeing other people and getting into relationships, like serious monogamous relationships after me. Then both of them broke up with their significant others and then came back to me and I'm like, no, 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 no. That's not how this works. Like you had your shot. I was giving
Yeah.
you every single thing that you asked for. And immediately no. Like, best of luck to you. You're gonna have to find someone else. And they hit me up all the time. I'm just like, I'm good. Like, you lost your chance. I gave you literally everything that you wanted, and that still wasn't enough. So
Yeah, because you gave him that deep, dark fantasy in real life. So now
yeah.
they're like tainted because you gave it to him. It's probably not super easy to find someone who's as open as you are. I mean, they're out there, right? But it takes a little longer.
Yeah, I think it's for me, I'm just like I'm balls to the wall with it. Like I've had a lot of guys though say like even it's funny because like I've had guys say to me like they'll match with me and then they'll start to ask like obviously more sexual questions of like, oh, are you into BDSM, or like this was pre-podcast even, like so it wasn't
Yeah.
out there for them to like even research me. And once I would get into the conversations, I'm always very upfront with that stuff. And they would be like, I knew it. You have like these like fuck me eyes and like, and I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, I don't like, is that really a thing? Like, or is that just a line? But I hear it all the time. So I guess people just think I have like a devious side to me, I guess, in my profile pictures.
Yeah, that's that again, like here we are at another like nexus point because pre-pandemic, that's how all of my Bumble and Tinder and personal face-to-face everything was like, you have something about you, like you got a secret or da da da, you're rough
Yeah.
in bed or whatever.
Yeah.
And now it's all like, what are you looking for? Ha? It's
Yeah.
like goodbye or whatever. So it's like, God, what the fuck? So it's definitely different. I'm sure. I feel like as we get into like summer, people are just gonna fucking lose it, especially here in Chicago. Like we've been off the COVID stuff for like just a month or whatever
Oh
it's
my
been, or
gosh,
two
really?
months or something, right? So in summer, it's gonna be like fuck everyone. So
Yeah.
things will get better for me. Plus, I don't even really know. I like all of my own shit that I'm dealing with. It's like, why do I want to add someone else's bullshit to that?
Right. See, that's the thing, like, too, I think I've gone through so much just like heartbreak and turmoil and drama with all my past relationships. That's why, like, again, and look, maturity and age, like, I feel like they're two separate things. Like, you can be young and mature and old and immature. So it's like, because
Yeah.
some of my friends, they don't get the cougar thing. They're like, I don't get why you date younger. And I'm like, look, I've had some of the best conversations that I've had with some guys that are like 19, 20, 21. Like, it
Right.
doesn't matter that they're that age. Like, they're holding better conversations than guys my age. So I'm like, it's like I don't mind it. But yeah, they're just like more carefree and like into like, just like kind of going with the flow, which I like. Whereas, I've the drama, I can't like I'm like my peace is more important. My mental health is more important than anything. And
Seriously.
it's going to take such a significant person to change my mind of like, all right, you're worth being in a relationship with. Like I'll play house with someone all day. I don't care. I love cooking. I love like catering to guys that I'm with. Like I've had guys that are into like the whole even like mommy fantasy because like I'm older. So that's been like a whole aspect of like things that I've kind of like heard throughout my cougar journey. But yeah, it's like it's nice not having the stress and drama of a relationship, but like also having the companionship. It's like there's and I feel like honestly, that's what a lot of people want. I think that's why dating's such a mess. I think so many people they want companionship, they want consistency, and they want that security, but they don't really want to commit because it's like once you're committed, then your problems become their problems and their problems become your problems. And like all of that stuff starts to like, it gets very serious because then you have the families. When are you going to get engaged? And all, all the things like fall into place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel like that's why so many people are fucked up with dating. Cause like they don't know what they want because they're just like, my mental health and my peace of mind is more important, which I get it.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Yeah, I love being single, but it's like it doesn't mean I don't want to like have someone that I can hang out with or have sex with or go to lunch with or dinner or whatever the fuck it is, right?
Right.
But it's weird because even trying being that open like I just was, and with everybody who I match with or whatever, it's like a 95% like, oh, I can't or whatever or whatever
Yeah.
rate. So whatever. But yeah, I love being single. The peace of mind and like, I'm doing the podcast, the creative shit, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
you're on your own fucking schedule. Sometimes it's like 4 a.m. and you can't find what fucking Canva file or whatever the fuck, right? Like you got to do your own thing. And I that's too valuable for me, that space, I
Yeah.
don't want to bring somebody else into it.
Yeah, no, I
So
get it. I totally get it. But it is like again, it's nice to have the companionship or the consistency because it's like I think that's too like with hookup culture, it's a mess because I think so many people just want to hook up with as many people as they can or they use that as such a defining thing. Like I've had so many guys basically being like, "Look, I don't want a relationship unless the girl's good in bed," which like I agree sex is very important in a good relationship. I think I think that is very important aspect of it, especially if you're both sexual people. But at the same time, like the first time you have sex with anyone is typically not the best. Like you can have good sex your first time, but it's still if you keep having sex with that person, it's only going to get better. And I
yes.
think people forget that too. So it's like everyone's so quick to just get like to check off the box of like, yeah, I fucked this person. They were okay. Like, I'll keep them on the back burner or they'll be my main person until I find someone else that's better in bed. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like that, everyone does the physical stuff before they get to the emotional stuff. I fucked more guys than I've been out in public with them. You know what I mean? Like, I never meet the friends. I never meet, whatever. It's like, don't go on dates with a lot of them. Like, I'll just be like, yeah, come over. Like, we'll hang out. I'll make dinner, like, whatever. But I think just everything's very backwards with dating.
Yeah, that's yeah, completely true. Everything is like upside down, sideways,
Mhm.
shattered, inside out. Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, this last little bit, and thank you for that because that was fucking brilliant. Like the way you put it all together was fucking perfect. I couldn't have said it better myself, and it sounds so much better coming from you. This last piece is something new I've been doing. It's called the burner. It's like 10, I don't know, 12 questions.
Okay.
They're like you don't have to rapid fire them, but
Okay.
we'll just move through them fast. It's
Yeah.
more fun. It's more personal, right?
Okay.
There's some personal stuff in there. It's not that bad, trust me. But would you like to go through the burner or would you like to decline?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, fuck yeah. Question one, name something you wish men would stop doing.
Asking what I'm looking for. Oh,
Okay.
and asking for my Snapchat. I can't fucking stand Snapchat.
Oh yeah,
I hate
gross.
I hate
Yeah.
Snapchat.
It's so
Yeah.
gross. It's like a baby's toy. It's like
It's I
what are
just
these
don't get
buttons?
it. Well,
Yeah.
I think it's younger guys, I think too, because it's like they grew up with it and they're like, "Oh, well, like asking for your number is too personal." I'm like, "Motherfucker, I went to college with a flip phone. Like, I've
For
gave my
real.
phone number out to all kinds of people. I can block whoever I want on an iPhone. I don't care if you have my number." Like, seriously.
I know. I know. My number's everywhere. Like it's
Right,
just fucking
especially if I
yeah.
get one more call about a car warranty of a car that I don't even own anymore, I'm gonna, like, lose my mind. I'm like, if they're calling me nonstop, I'm like, "You can text me, it's
Yeah.
no big deal."
Yeah. That's definitely a scam.
Yeah.
Question two, name something you wish women would stop doing.
Doing what I said before about the filters and the over
Mm.
makeup on dating apps. I hear it so much, it drives me crazy, and it's like, I like I said, I appreciate the art, but it's just like you can't, cry about it when guys are not happy about what you actually look like.
Question three, name something that you wish you would stop doing.
Dating red flags. It's like I literally my dating life, if it had a name, it would be capture the flag. Like that's
Nice.
it. I
That's the name
love
of your
I love a
book.
red flag.
Yeah. Yeah. In one sentence, this is tricky. In one sentence, give us your thoughts on the Will Smith situation. One sentence?
Um, so it might be more than a sentence,
Oh,
but
yeah, it's definitely gonna be. We're already past that.
yeah, I I get where he was coming from. I just don't agree with it. That's
Okay, well
I think
said.
it was
Well
wrong
said.
place, wrong time. So
Yeah, we just had to throw it in there because it's current and sort of
yeah,
current, whatever. We don't need to talk about it because everybody's just like just drilling down so hard on it. Everyone's
yeah.
sucks. Okay. What is the perfect amount of thirst traps to post per week?
Oh, you're asking the wrong one. I'll post a thirst trap every day if I'm feeling myself.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
like, or
good.
multiple times a day. I mean,
Fuck
not
yeah.
necessarily on my Instagram feed, but like stories, like, oh yeah, like there's times where I'm posting one every day. So I think if you're feeling yourself, then go for it,
Hell yeah. Dude, post it every fucking 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, uh, I wish more people should feel themselves. I feel like everyone feels like they look like shit or they hate themselves. Like, fuck that. Everyone should just post the craziest shit as much as they can until they feel better.
Oh
Fuck it.
yeah, people look at me all the time and they're just like, "I can't believe you post that." And it's like I always like put it in perspective for people. I'm like, I used to be 400 pounds. I look disgusting, and so yeah, I'm going to take advantage now that I look great. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
I
fuck.
have my days, like where I feel like shit, but it's like, I'm like, yeah, if I'm feeling good, I'm gonna post it.
Yeah, we all do. We all have those fucking days.
Yeah.
Okay, tell us a secret.
I don't really have any secrets. I feel
That's a
like.
lie. That's a lie. That's a lie.
I mean, I literally feel like I share everything on my podcast. I've
Okay.
talked about me having chlamydia. I don't think I really do have any secrets twice.
Well,
I
we
got
can.
I got
Yeah.
COVID. I got COVID after I got chlamydia twice, believe it or not.
Oh, like in the same time frame?
I mean, it was within I think a year and a half, but like yeah, I got chlamydia twice before I got COVID. So not really a
Oh,
secret. I talked about it, but it's like
yeah.
that's just like funny to people because they're just like, what the fuck? Especially being in Florida because we didn't really shut down at all.
Right, for sure. Okay. If a train leaves Boston at 1 p.m. carrying 100 pounds of apples and makes 4 stops on the way to Chicago, do you have anxiety right now?
No.
Okay, all right. What is your dream threesome scenario? Celebrities, historical figures, dead or alive, doesn't matter.
That's a tough one.
It's very tough.
I would definitely say Pete Davidson for obvious reasons because I just have to like see what the hype is about.
Okay.
And the third would be who am I obsessed with right now? I feel like there's just like so many celebrities that I love. Um, I would say Michael B. Jordan. He's hot. He's
Yeah, I
like
feel like
very.
that's a
I like
solid
his
threesome.
attire. Like he dresses nice. Like there's just everything about him I like. So those would be my two, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This one I stole from Pornhub. Perfect length of time to have sex.
Like, are you counting foreplay with it, or just like actual
No,
penetration?
penetration.
Oh, I mean, I had this conversation with someone the other day, and this guy was like, "Oh yeah, one of my friends was like going for like hours," and I was like, "That no." I said, "If it's getting more than like 30 minutes, I'm like, I'm out. My ADD is kicking in. I'm thinking about the grocery list I need to make, and like, like foreplay though, like that's fun because you can keep like doing all different things. But like, yeah, actual penetrative sex, like more than I don't even 20 minutes is like, I'm just like, all right, get off me, like fucking get it over with, like let's just speed this up, like."
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, some people, I feel like that on Pornhub, the answer is always somewhere between like 7 minutes and like 2 hours or something, whatever.
I mean, that's
So
so extreme. If I'm
yeah.
getting 30 minutes, I'm like, because I just posted a meme the other day because I had said this and I happened to see the meme that like validated what I said. If a woman says to a guy, "Come for me," she's bored. Like you got to speed it up and just like we're done, we're out. Because it's like
Yeah.
women know too. It's like especially if it's like with a newer partner and you you don't really feel comfortable kind of like critiquing them yet. It's like you just say that shit to be like, all right, like I know I'm not gonna come, like let's end this.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
I got things to do, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it's like I always take forever with sex. That's just how I've always been. But over time, I can kind of like, I don't know, with that person, I can sort of learn to be, have quickies or whatever.
I
But
think it
still,
depends too. Like I've hooked up with a lot of guys recently who are just like, oh, like they'll preface it in the beginning of like, hey, it takes me a really long time to come and sometimes I can't because I have to like actually be like emotionally connected with the person. Like so they're just basically like a stunt cock for like whatever. But it's like which is fine, but it's like at the same time it's like if you're going to do that, like you definitely need to make sure that the girl like actually comes. Because like girls can sit there, like we can have an orgasm and like still like keep going and it like
Sure.
feels good because it's like, especially if it's like rougher and whatever, but like yeah, it's there's like a fine line though.
Okay. Final question.
Okay.
Say something to one of your exes.
Get therapy.
Perfect. Boom. That was it. That was the burner. You made it. You made it through. Yeah. Blanket statement.
Yeah.
Stephanie Smith, thank you so much for being here. This is a fucking blast. Where can people find you? Where can people find the podcast?
So the podcast is called Dirty Blondes, and it's available on Apple, Spotify, pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts. My website is dirtyblondespodcast.com, so you can listen to it there as well. I have a merch store, so I have t-shirts and just like kind of funny things on there that you can purchase. On Instagram and all social media, my username is Dirty Blondes Pod. So go follow me there if you want to follow my crazy life.
You guys, it's worth it. It's a fucking fun show. She's a fun person. You're incredible. Thank you so much for fucking being here. I love this.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, we'll talk soon.
All right.
Huge thank you to Stephanie Smith. I had a blast with her on the show. If you guys are having a blast with Sex Party and you're listening on platforms like Apple and Spotify, you can subscribe. You don't have to. It would be lovely if you would subscribe. I would appreciate that greatly. You can also leave a review. Helps the show out a ton. If you're watching on YouTube, how you doing? You can subscribe on YouTube. You can like the video. You can comment. It helps a lot when you do. You're helping the show grow, and I appreciate that very, very much. As always, you guys can send me a DM on Instagram. You could reach out in the comments on Instagram. Love ya. See you next week.
Thanks for listening. The party continues next week. Click subscribe and let's make this a regular thing. Follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at SexPartyFM. Follow Dustin at Dustin Rybka.